Hello, once again. We are back talking about something that we're kind of wondering how we're going to be received because it's going to be a bit controversial. We're talking about China cars. We're talking about the cars from China, the cars that are branded from China, the cars that are made in China. It's a
Oh, this
big
is gonna be a
deal.
good one.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
because Chris has some opinion.
This
We're gonna see what he says. Well, we're gonna
is
okay.
gonna
We
be
know what he
good.
says. We're gonna have him say it on record. So okay. Anyway, so we're gonna be talking about China cars because we all have differing opinions on them. My personal opinion is that we can't call them China cars. I don't think so. I think that any more than we can say Japanese cars now or American cars. Haha. But I think it's very different, and we're seeing a much faster pace in development, in acceptance, in all these things than we ever had with any other car. And arguably, China was more focused on the world than any of these other cars when they started. So anyway, that is our discussion point today because we have China cars, China branded cars, China built cars competing against the stalwarts from Japan, uh, arguably the stalwarts from Europe around the world. So that is what we're going to be discussing. We're going to start by chatting with Paolo. And what is Paolo's opinion on? Is it worth it for us to get something? Is it not worth it for us to get
Yeah.
something? What?
So I just want to kind of liken the Chinese branded cars to the Chinese phones, which have been quite popular the last couple of years. So I'll name two. So that's Huawei and Xiaomi. Back then, maybe in the early 2000s or late 2000s, people only had really the Apple or Samsung in terms of
Yep.
smartphones.
I remember
But
that.
nowadays,
Mm.
maybe the past 3 or 4 years, people have been more open to buying Xiaomi and Huawei. And you can see that it's not really about, I mean, the credibility of brands is still a huge deal these days, but it's not everything as it was before. So people look more into the features of the phone, what these products can offer. So, for example, does it have a nice screen for phones? Does it have a nice resolution? Is it complete with connectivity? Like, how fast is it? Like, how's the hard drive? So, these are huge factors nowadays. It's the same thing can be said for cars. Um, Aside from the popularity of the Japanese cars or the European cars, people also look into the quality of the interior. Is it well made? Is it well constructed? How's the infotainment system, the technology, the safety feature? So uh, there's a differing kind of view nowadays.
Yeah. I
Well, you got
agree.
to
Mhm.
Like,
remember that for one
Yep.
thing, we're
Yep.
talking about Apple, but Apple's built in China, right?
yeah,
So
that
Yes.
that
arguably,
It's
too.
Yes.
assembled in
It
China,
is. It
designed
we
in
is.
have these
California,
cars.
but assembled in China.
Yeah, but then you've got cars from Volkswagen, you've got cars from
Yeah.
Ford,
Mm-hmm.
And
and
yeah.
there's some of them are just rebadges, some of them are
Mhm.
really developed. And remember
Mhm.
that brands like Audi were early into China, so they have a long
Yes.
history
Mhm.
of
Correct.
developing. And there's one thing we have learned, and that is that there are designers and engineers who would much rather be in China than anywhere else because they say
Really?
number one, it's very quick for them to come to market. They can prototype very quickly. They're given a lot more support. They're given a lot more development time, effort, and money. So when we look at these cars coming out of China, quite often they're at a higher level of sophistication than the cars from other countries. They just have more money. They have more power right now.
Mhm.
They're focusing on it. So
And slowly, like I mean, like here in the Philippines, slowly. I think Jared has like the was really covering the news on this, wherein the Chinese brands like MG and Geely, they've been
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
a lot more sales.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Jared, would you like to expound on that? Yeah.
Yeah. Like nowadays, Geely, for example, it's reported that it's Ascara in School Ray did very well in June for its June and July sales as compared to the other compact and subcompact SUV brands. MG also has been, in fact, they just sent a press release today that they have a new tagline. It's called um, "Expecting Extraordinary," which basically means that they're basically leveling up from what they started out with. But you know what? I think this is also it. There's a stigma kasi which used to plague Chinese cars. I say used to because what 10, 15 years ago, cars like the Cherry QQ were um
The-
okay. To be fair about it, they were really on the poor side when it came to quality. And but nowadays it's the exact opposite. The build quality has leveled up. The features have definitely leveled up,
there we
and
go.
they're not.
The
Yeah,
QQ.
yeah. There you go. There
Such
you
a
Great
cute
go.
memories.
car.
Cute.
Yeah,
Any memories, Chris?
Such a cute. So many memories.
it's cute, but let's leave it at that. I mean,
Actually, now that when you stare at it, it looks like it's smiling back at you.
yeah.
I think that was the point. I think that's what they wanted to
Yeah,
do.
it is a
In
happy
fairness.
looking car, but yeah. But nowadays you can get the same, with. I mean, kayo, you've tried the Chinese cars. I mean, how Chinese branded cars.
I
How
have,
do
but
you
not
find
the
it?
QQ. The QQ
Well,
is a different
except for the
story.
QQ.
I was in
mean,
grade school when the QQ was out. So I wasn't there.
Okay, no comment. No comment. Let's not
I-
get into it here. So,
No, but Chris, like short, like you've driven it, like you have
Yeah.
a like,
Yeah.
short review.
how did you find it?
No, well, I mean, in defense of Cherry and the QQ at the time, I don't think
Hmm.
there are very many manufacturers that start off with excellent products off the bat.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean-
Japanese before were
Yeah.
Toyota.
When the Japanese started out, American cars were huge, and everyone would make fun of people buying Toyotas
correct,
back in the '60s. So yeah, I mean, it was a rough start. Let's just say that it was a rough start for Cherry. But I mean, Chinese cars have come a long way since then.
yeah.
Yeah, and there's a progression. In the same that what we're saying about China cars now, it was said about cars from Europe at some point by the Americans, cars from Japan.
Even
Cars
Toyota.
from
I remember. Yeah, I was reading about those.
So all we're seeing now is, in reality, a much quicker take up of these vehicles, a much quicker development process. We're seeing better cars more quickly, I guess.
That's true.
So-
Like production has been sped up, like compared to way before. And
Yeah,
I
because it
like
has-
with what Chris was saying, like parang this like parang growing pains, like that every car brand has to go through. Like
Yeah.
Toyota before, like Hyundai before, Hyundai before, and now I
Yeah.
think like Chinese brands, like they've been low key, like what Chris said, like they've been out in the market for a while, but they've been on the more low key side. But
Hmm.
now that they're coming out and parang they're coming in strong, like
With a fight. Yeah.
And also, quality control protocols have evolved through time. They've been looking at how other manufacturers do their own quality control, and they try to improve on theirs, and it just results in better cars overall for everyone. Like I can't even say that there are bad cars nowadays. It's
That's true.
I mean, if
That's
we're
true.
taking it for product per product, if we're comparing
Yeah.
brand new cars to brand new cars, we're
That's
not
true.
talking about how they'll last in the next 10 years. We're not talking about that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I agree.
But,
I
yeah.
agree.
And
like-
who has the 1,000,000-kilometer warranty or
Oh
something?
yeah, Cherry has a million,
A 1 million kilometer
1
warranty.
million kilometer warranty, 10 years, man.
10
If
years.
that's,
Exactly.
I'll be surprised we look back on this video and then there's actually a Cherry na or any car na 1 million kilometers. That'll be surprising.
No, and I think
Well,
it has
but-
to do with the social media generation also. Diba? I mean,
Yeah.
people are more-
Yeah, there's also a lot
Yeah.
of there's a lot of commentary on cars like this.
Yes.
There's a lot of commentary on everything that may not be as well, I don't know, curated as it used to be. We would get
Yes,
intelligent
definitely.
comments. We would get
Yeah.
nowadays we get comments about comments, right? Rather than
It's true.
and so that's pointless. One thing to remember is that we're talking about people, let's say Japan or Korea, who increasingly had the ability to look upon the previous industrial giants and work around them. Toyota, when it came in, it improved the way they built cars, using in a lot of ways what they learned from the Americans. The Koreans looked at the Japanese and
Yep.
tried to figure out how to beat the Americans. Now the Chinese, completely different. The Chinese, number one, they partnered up with everybody. So what they
Yeah.
learned, they didn't even learn
Yeah.
just by watching.
Yeah.
They learned by getting them
Yeah.
in, by Mercedes coming in, Audi
Yeah.
coming in, Volkswagen coming in, or
That's
they learned
true.
by buying
Yeah.
them, such as Geely buying Volvo,
Volvo.
or
Volvo.
buying
Yes.
MG or whatever. So it's a very different thing. They're coming in, they're taking the knowledge, or they're buying it completely perfectly, and no one can argue that they're doing it in a shady manner. It's very, very clear. They
That's
want to make
true.
better cars. They want to do all that. So it's very
True.
different. It's a very different atmosphere. It's a very different reality from the way it was before.
It's true.
Yeah.
But then like when you start talking to people, there's still like a good number who are hesitant of
Oh yeah,
buying
there's
the,
still
the
a
Chinese
stigma.
car. Yeah. There's still
Yeah.
a stigma.
Yes, Chris.
But no. But actually, no. It's
Always
actually,
comes
for-
back to that.
No,
Yeah.
but it's
Sorry.
less on stigma. But I think it's more on like their
Perception.
demands to be met.
Yeah.
And I think that's what for me. I'd like us to talk about so like I think Chris is the best example. What was our example last time? We
Why am I
presented
the
him two
best
cars.
example?
No, because we presented
Because he had a
presented
new
two
microphone.
cars.
Yeah,
No, but
so
Cool.
we presented two cars, and then like it was either the Japanese car, and then it's like just plain standard equipment, and then the fully loaded Chinese car.
Or
yeah.
Like you still chose the Japanese one. So like, what was your benchmark of like saying no to the Chinese car, and yes
Obviously,
to the Japanese car?
The Chinese products that are coming in are very well priced, like very, very well priced. We just saw the Maxus G50
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
launched earlier,
Yep,
releasing
yep.
for an incredible price for the features that it comes with. So, I mean, there are a lot of reasons why it would make sense to get a Chinese branded car. Price being the major factor, getting what you pay for, basically. But there are other things to consider, especially if you're a first-time car buyer. If you're one of those people who are let's say you're gonna get your first car, you saved up for years and you're ready to put down the cash on a brand new car. I mean, there are limitations and restrictions to someone who would put down all that money on a brand new Chinese car, namely reliability. I mean, I'm not saying Chinese cars are not reliable. I'm saying they're so new in the market that nobody really knows. Nobody really knows if they're going to last 5 years or 10 years. Of course, the Chinese brands are trying to battle that by releasing 1 million kilometer warranties, 10-year warranties, because they
5
know
years.
that's a problem. They know that perception is a problem, and that's why they come out with these marketing promos to battle that, right? So that's one factor. The other factor is the availability of parts. Again, we don't know how available the parts are. I mean, what good is a 10-year warranty if it takes you 4 months to get a part anyway? Your car is going to be sitting in the garage for months on end. You don't know. There's so many unknowns to it.
Yeah.
But you're,
Yeah.
let just to clarify, or to add to this question of waiting for parts. We're discussing this because we know it happens, even in the
Yeah.
cars that are not from China.
Right.
Okay, so it happens to a lot
Yes.
of brands,
Right.
That are not from China.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that alone, there are the argument that let's say the Ford president made was that, well, we're closer to China than we are to Detroit, so it should be easier. That's a good point for that.
Yeah.
And anyone that's buying anything from Lazada and Shopee right now, we know how quickly it takes to get,
Yeah.
how quickly the parts
Yeah.
are. So
And again, the brands know that that's a pain point, which is why brands like Kia and Mazda, they emphasize in their PR and their press releases that they have warehouses. Parts are readily available, and you'll get them in a day or at
That's
most
true.
a week. So they emphasize that because they know it is a pain point. The other unknown factor that people have to deal with when they buy Chinese branded cars is the resale value, which is a big factor that comes into play for people who like to resell their cars every 5 years. There are people who buy
some three.
3 to 5 years. They buy their cars, use it for 3 to 5 years, and then resell. How much are you getting back for your investment? I mean, cars are never really investments, right? But how much are you getting back for what you paid? That's another unknown because Chinese brands are so new to the market. Yeah, so these are things that a new car buyer would have to think about. Now, if you're buying your fourth car, if you're buying a car to just beat the color coding, the number coding scheme, you just need an extra
coding
car in your
car.
garage. It makes a
car.
lot of sense, honestly. It makes a lot of sense. And you don't really care about the resale value because it's just an extra car. It's just, or if it's just chump change to you. It makes a lot of sense though, because the Chinese cars are pretty fantastic. At least the new ones, the modern ones,
Yeah.
they're really good.
So if you like, let's say you already have like a car, like a Japanese, like a dependable car, you'd actually buy a Chinese car as your second car.
You know, with let's just say yes.
Silence.
Let's get
He's
one
on
for
the spot.
example. Yeah. Let's get one
Let-
for example. Like for a second car, would you get this? Showing it on screen. Look, oh, you're even smiling here.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
no. Serious.
No.
You're the serious.
Oh yeah, no, I love the Cool Ray.
Yeah.
The Cool Ray stands out for me because it doesn't even it doesn't even feel like a Chinese car. I mean, I'm opening a can of worms here again. Like when I say it feels like a Chinese car, let's just say that
Car feel like.
yeah. Okay. In terms of build quality, as good as the Chinese cars are, they are almost there when compared to the Japanese brands, but not quite there yet. But then again, you are paying a lot less, so you
Yeah.
can't be completely unrealistic and say I want exactly the same reliability, the same build quality, the same interior, the same materials as a Japanese car, but I want it at 500 grand less. You can't. You can't. I mean, you got to be realistic. Now, the Geely actually comes really close to
Yeah.
feeling European.
Yeah.
Comes close
yeah.
it comes close to being up there with the best of them. So yes,
That's-
to answer your question, I would buy one as a second car, definitely.
Second car.
Uh-huh.
See, that's the to me when we looked at the Geelys, and in particular the Cool Ray, what impressed me was actually the level of quality for the interior, because they can sort everything else out, right? But when they spent that much time and attention to detail on the interior, they're clearly aiming for something higher. So I would argue that, yeah, they might, if they're not at that level, they're going to be over that level very soon. So,
Yeah,
so for
it's
me,
just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when people ask me
I
as
would
an
agree with
example,
that.
because I was quite happy with the Cool Ray, and in terms of how I drove it and tested it and so on, and really interesting. One of my neighbors has he bought a new Mini, he bought a new Mazda, and he was just going nuts over the Cool Ray, and he was completely sold. And his son, who has the Mazda, says, "Don't ever do it. Go buy the Mazda. I'll bring you to the Mazda dealership." He goes, "Okay, fine, but then I'll bring you to the Cool Ray dealership, the Geely dealership," which they did. The son changed his mind.
Really?
The son with the
Okay.
brand new
Oh.
Mazda changed his mind.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
So of course these cars are all sitting in a parking lot because they can't move.
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
but when someone asked me, "Would you actually buy a Cool Ray?" My answer, honestly, was no question. No
Yeah,
question.
tell that to my brother. Like
Yeah.
we're actually getting one, like a Cool Ray, because and to think I showed him like different cars, like on the same price category, Japanese cars, and he still gravitated towards the Cool Ray because like for him he couldn't distinguish that for us, since we know all the details, it's like we know it's a Chinese car, but for my brother it's like he didn't see it that way. It's like it's like it felt just like the others and like even
Yeah.
better.
And then they have the level of these China
Chris, remember this?
brands.
Yeah.
What is that?
The MGZ,
That's the MG
Oh, right.
ZS.
Look at that interior. Like I know a while ago we were talking about interiors, but yeah, like
Yeah.
if they're not there yet, they're catching up. I'm telling you, they're catching up.
No, the MG ZS was probably the first car that made me really say
Look.
that the Chinese branded cars are pretty close already to.
Yeah, I remember
The
that
top
day. You were
spec.
so excited. Like, Nix, you should see the
I was
car.
I was seriously impressed by this car for the
Yeah.
price. It was offered, I think, at 800 something at the time.
This
I'm not
one,
sure how
yeah.
much it goes for now.
Mhm.
Until now,
As
yeah.
far as I know, less
This
than a
model
million.
is
Yeah.
It's like
800,000.
800 something. Yeah.
So for 800,000 to get a car like this with a sunroof and a touchscreen and leather seats, that's incredible. That's why you see so many of them because
It's one of the more
It's-
popular ones.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I saw so many of these MG ZSs when they were being offered because the price is simply just too tempting to resist. It's just too good for a lot of people. And these are the people who say, like, if it falls apart in 5 years, I don't care because to me, I already got my money's worth.
Worth.
So
You know what's also interesting? Oh, wait, let me first share the photo to. Okay, let me share this one. And Chris is driving it also. This one. No, okay. So like around a week ago, I was with with Joel from Overland Kings, and we found out this has an electronic
Identify the
locking
car.
differential. It is the Maxus T60. Oh yeah, sorry. So this is the Maxus T60. The 4x4 version, which is like 1.5 plus million. So it comes as just as expensive as a 4x2 of other brands. So dun pa lang, like if you're looking for a 4x4 vehicle, like on a budget, this is the one to get. But
and it has a locking diff.
that's the thing. Yeah, that's an electronic locking diff. So the only cars available in the market with a locking differential, Toyota, the Hilux, the Ranger, if I'm not mistaken, the Ranger Wildtrak, and this one. So dun pa lang, like you can see like not just value propositions, but some of these brands they're bringing in the right stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So so clearly just to wrap up our thoughts on what will constitute someone buying a Chinese car. Like one of them is sort of like for some a second car. But what in terms of what are the qualitative things that we look for that parang the Chinese cars have already done well?
Well, they already have. They're already. If you talk things like, accessories and technology, they are in many ways further ahead than some of the others. And there's a good reason for that. It's because all the tech is actually coming out of China. For example, the Chinese-made Ford we recently tried was the Territory, and it had wireless Apple CarPlay, whereas the Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid did not have wireless Apple CarPlay. And the thing is that China is much further forward in terms of getting this tech into the cars, and we saw this way back with things like the BYD, which we
Yeah.
were able to.
Electric
I
cars.
mean, and what was interesting with the BYD was because we had tested a BYD and we had actually tested a Tesla. And in the Tesla, everything looks clean and cool and whatever. The BYD, all the tech and all the software you could program, it's kind of bare bones. It was kind of like basic Windows versus a really gussied up system. So you could really see the potential, and you're like, wow, all this stuff is just so programmable. So when I came away from driving the BYD, what I saw was that there's just so much potential. There's just so much potential, and that's what we're seeing now with these Chinese cars because they have the potential. They have the ability to integrate this very, very quickly. And there's another thing which we really got to say: we got to stop calling them China cars because they're completely different.
Yeah,
a
it's
bike,
Yep,
a bike is
yep.
completely different from a BID. It's completely different from a Geely. It's completely different from an MG. So we can't say that anymore. If you get a bike, you're getting a very utilitarian, tough little car. If you get a
like this
Geely,
one.
you're getting a very high level car. It's completely different. We can't paint them the same way anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like for example, this BYD, the BJ20, BJ20, it has if I'm not mistaken, a Mitsubishi engine and a Mitsubishi transmission, and then the design inside is from the designers of Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah.
Like you're right, nowadays it's hard to to differentiate, like, is the car from China, but Ford's using it, and Volkswagen.
Yeah,
You know.
and there's a we were having this discussion exactly about this. It's like, what do we call these cars? Because MG is a British brand, but it's made in China. It's built by it's the company's now owned. The brand is now owned by that corporation. Geely owns Volvo. So what do we call a China car? It doesn't really follow anymore. It doesn't, and it's really just too broad a paintbrush already. In my opinion.
Sure.
But
There's a
here's
lot
the
of
question.
technology.
With all these cars, Chris, which one would you choose?
Which cars? All of the China cars available now?
Pick something that you think is impressive.
Oh boy. Well, like I said earlier, I was really impressed with the Coolray, so I would go with that.
Yeah, my choice as well. Nyx.
Okay, the one that impressed, like, for a second car, like, here, ito, let me
Doesn't
share
matter.
this one.
What's your top?
Okay. This is actually one of my favorites.
Okay, guys, I didn't tell them I was going to ask this, so be aware.
Yeah.
No one
This
knows
one.
this is coming. So
Yeah, that's even me.
Ah,
I'm
good
like, this one.
okay, define the choice. What are you talking about?
Okay, so like it's not as cool, not as cool as the Coolray, but like for like a daily drive, it has a really plush, kind of a ride.
Okay,
For
what is
daily
it?
driving and side, it's the GAC GS8.
Okay.
But
luxurious.
I'd probably get. Remember, Paolo, you drove this as well, right? Like,
For a
you
while,
did,
yeah,
right? For a while.
Yeah,
It's-
it's very luxurious. But I
Yeah.
drove the mid variant, not this one.
No, this is the mid variant, the
That's the
4x2.
mid variant, sorry.
Yeah, that's the one we drove, the 4x2. It's actually good. Like, for me, I'd get it over the Coolray because of the size. Like, for a little bit more, I think 500,000 pesos more. You get so much size. You get good amenities. It has Bluetooth. Yeah.
Do you think
like,
Do you think it's
Yeah.
as technologically forward as something like the Coolray?
No. In
Not
terms
at
of
all.
tech, no. That's why I said the Coolray is way ahead, and I think it's really because of their partnership with Volvo. Like, you can
Well,
really
they're-
feel
It's
it.
not a partnership. It's an ownership.
Ano,
They
like
own
ownership.
Volvo.
It's an ownership. They own.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
company.
yeah.
Yeah. As for
Yep.
GAC, it's kind of like they're their own brand. So
Right.
even that alone, it's really impressive. Like,
Yeah,
to do it
yeah,
on
yeah.
their own.
Mhm.
So, Paolo, what would you choose?
Yeah, you guys know I'm big on technology, so I would consider the MG ZS or the Ford Territory. The MG because
Ford
of the
territory.
price. Yeah, because
Interesting
because of
that
the price. It's
interesting
under
that was included here. Okay. Yeah.
Well, no,
Yeah.
that's our argument, right? The argument
Yeah.
here is what should
Yeah.
be included here because
Yeah.
effectively
Yeah.
it is. So, anyway, you're saying, Paolo, the MG.
Yeah. So the MG because of the price. Under a million, it starts at 800,000. But then there's the Territory. The Territory, it's the new player. It's a bit bigger. It has all the technology. For me, it's the Chinese car with the most well equipped tech. But I would
good
still go for
looking.
the Geely Coolray because of the drive and the technology and the feel of it. It feels very premium, especially if you look at the price.
All right.
Looks good pa. Like, it still looks
Yeah.
good.
But Gerard,
Yeah.
Gerard, thoughts?
Okay, I'd actually choose two. First is a Coolray. I mean, it's got all the tech. It's got the build quality. And the reviews are really good. The drive and all. And the newest player, the G50, which is launched earlier. I really,
Oh, okay.
yeah, seriously consider it because
Yeah. That's a good choice, actually.
yeah, I mean, for that price, even the base price, you get a lot, and especially for the Filipinos who are looking for an 8-seater MPV, it's really worth considering. I mean, and it goes up against a lot of two spectrums of the market. The Innova Amp and the Expander BRV segment. So, for that alone, I'd really look at that car and
Yeah.
seriously.
Like, how much is the entry level of this one, Gerard? This one?
1,088,000. Where you get the Pro.
Wow.
Jeez, so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
188. And even
That's like
And-
getting Coolray. That's the Coolray
Yep.
price, more or less, right? Like
Yeah.
top
you're
of the
3,000
line
short.
gets you the premium with all the bells and whistles, 1288. I mean,
That's
that's way
crazy.
below
Crazy,
the low
man.
B.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
And
you get
and the top
5-year warranty, diba?
5-year warranty on top of that, and the top of the line model actually competes with even the Honda Odyssey in terms of
Yes.
features and specs.
Correct.
So
Correct.
it's remarkable that they got it to launch
Yeah.
at 1.299, was it?
1288.
1288?
One,
Yeah.
Yeah.
1288. That's incredible.
I seriously
Like,
consider that car, or even get it back. You know.
Right. Well, okay, here's another question. Well, a couple of questions. One is, it seems like we're always gravitating towards the newest car, which might mean that it's just we're getting, I mean, these cars are developing very quickly, and we're seeing the newest technology in the newest car. So, do you guys think that we're going to have this kind of a, I don't know if you want to call it a round robin or ladder thing, where the newest car is the coolest car, or do you think these guys are going to develop into different directions?
Oh,
I think
that's,
they will develop into different directions. I mean, it's as we said, growing pains. But as they go along, because you yourself said it, they didn't just learn from the Japanese. They practically dipped their hands, and they're learning along the way. So I guess even that point wherein they would try to develop their own respective identities, I think they would do that, and hopefully 5 years down the line we'll be having this type of discussion, and maybe
Yeah.
Geely would be they'd go a certain direction, MG would go a certain market niche and all. So I don't know. I'm hoping that they will. And
I wouldn't
Yeah.
even call it growing pains anymore at this point. It's just more like
Yeah.
refining
Yeah,
the edges
yeah,
because
yeah.
they're already
Correct.
pretty good
pretty
cars.
good.
So,
And the
yeah,
pricing pa. And
Yeah.
like this would eventually it will force the other manufacturers, the other brands
competitor.
to not only it's either be priced competitively or they have to up their game in like quality and
Step
technology.
up their game.
Yeah.
It's a very good point, Nix. Yeah.
Diba? So like I'm happy that we've come to this point na all these cars like they're getting really good. Like it's like even for my brother, like for him to say that he can't like recognize it anymore, that's a good sign for me.
Oh yeah.
So, do you think people are going to care? I mean, the modern buyers, are they going to even care about the question we just put on the screen? What would make you buy a China brand car? Would they even care? Is it an issue to them at all? I mean, to your brother,
Oh
it's
wow.
not.
Well,
Yeah,
I
my brother,
mean,
it's not.
you'll have to consider the whole political spectrum
Yeah.
of it. But then if you disregard that,
No, disregard that. That's
yeah.
Yeah.
that's
I
nothing
don't
we can
think they
control
would.
there.
I mean, yeah.
But no. But would you? A lot of people like, rightly or wrongly, a lot of people like cars because of the statement they make about themselves,
Yeah.
and that's where they buy a lot of expensive cars that they don't always know how to drive.
Mhm.
But no, it's completely true. It's completely true.
It's
and the
true.
truth
It's
is,
true. It's true.
and it's
true.
it's the responsibility of the guys selling the cars to properly indoctrinate people into how to drive these cars. It's really that simple.
Which some brands actually do, if I'm not mistaken.
I know they do, and that's a good thing, and
Yeah.
that tells you where the brand has their heart. Anyway,
Yeah.
no, but do you think anybody else cares? Do you think because
Slow,
the
slowly
discussion
being
was-
washed away.
the discussion was like the phones, right? Do we care how the software in our phone works or not? We don't. And their argument in this case is, do people care about what's inside the car? They want Apple CarPlay. They want to do this.
Yeah.
they look
I
more.
think it-
Modern buyers look more now, and what the products can offer.
Yeah, then the brand itself. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah.
It also depends on how much time the products are given. Like the Chinese branded phones have been given the opportunity to spread and be in the hands of millions of different people. And these millions of different people are saying, hey, you know what? It's actually not bad.
Yeah,
Why
it's
don't you
not
try
bad.
it out? And the next
Chris.
person will try. Oh yeah, look at that. See, and the next person will try it out, and they'll say, "Hey, you know what? It's not bad. You know, why don't you try it out?" So it's been given the chance to actually prove itself, or they prove themselves.
Six
Yeah.
people here. Who has what phones?
I have a Xiaomi.
But-
No,
I
but
still have a Samsung.
yeah,
Samsung.
but
Samsung.
Yeah, I've
For
got a
the-
Samsung too.
Okay, so
So
3 Samsungs, a Xiaomi,
Xiaomi.
and an iPhone. Okay.
yeah,
No, but like for me, like from what I've been seeing with phones, because I'm not really a brand conscious, or at least for phones, I'm not brand conscious. So like what
Yeah.
Paolo was saying, as long as it has the features I want and need, like I'll take it. And slowly, I'm seeing people like aside from my brother, I'm seeing other people. We've seen them on the the YouTube and Facebook video comments that like they're liking these cars because of what they have to offer. Period.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the nurse at clinic that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
She
And they're
for 10
intelligent.
years.
I mean, we're not getting stupid comments either. You know, I mean, we're getting very insightful. You know, you can't paint the China car buyers again
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
looking for a cheap car or whatever. It's not the case.
Yeah.
They're
Yep.
intelligent
Yep.
buyers. They have good questions. They've understood now where on the hierarchy their need for a new brand is. Did they, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, if the case in point is a guy with a Mazda and a Mini and whatever, and then he wants to buy a Chinese Coolray, you know, the argument there is that they've surpassed the need for brand as identity, and they're looking at the
Yeah.
product itself.
It's like they're just looking at the car, like
Yeah.
like
What the product
doesn't
has
matter
to
the
offer.
brand name.
And then we're going to see the key point will be in well, Chris, you said this, and I agree with you. The key point will be how do the brands keep up the relationship with the customers in
Yeah.
terms of service, in terms of reliability, and honestly, in all honesty, if there are reliability issues and they answer them,
yeah,
That's a
then
plus. That's a
that
plus.
is that goes a long way.
Yeah.
If they have reliability
It's gonna
issues,
be a
and
big
they
factor.
ignore people,
Yeah.
then it'll just
Correct.
go down this little hole. So,
Yep.
so that is
Yep.
what we have discussed. We have been talking about China cars and the fact that we shouldn't be calling them China cars.
We
we've
debunked
talked-
our own title.
Yeah, they're all their own thing. Their own thing. That's a different. Bayek over here versus like Geely over here, completely different cars.
Yes.
And we can't paint them with the same brush. We can't assess them the same way. We have to assess them properly as individual cars or individual brands with their own strengths, with strengths that are unique to cars coming out of that market. These cars, remember, have massive backing. They have the newest production facilities, the newest testing facilities. They have the world's best designers who are happy to be in China because they feel they are given free reign over their visions. So
Yeah.
that is, if you
Mhm.
take away the fact that it's in China, that's a recipe for success. It really is.
That's true. That's true.
So
Yep.
it might be that this discussion we had that everyone was so worried about, Chris, might be absolutely nothing. It might be absolutely nothing because it'll be a non-issue like a year from now.
Mm.
Yeah, I see
Yep.
it happening that way actually.
Yep. I'm hopeful for it.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm excited to see.
Yeah.
It's actually
Yes.
really
Yes.
it's an exciting point in the automotive industry to see how it'll all play out.
Mm.
That's so
Yeah.
true.
It
Yeah.
might be arguably that, I mean, okay, the whole world has been saying that people are less into buying cars, right? They're less likely to own cars. Younger people don't really want to drive, and so on. Who knows? It might be these cars that bring them back into the love of
Driving.
the car. That,
Mm.
Yeah,
that we
Actually,
all
it's
have,
true.
you know?
Yeah.
Toyota
Tech, no?
said this. Toyota said recently that we still want you to love cars, but we want you to love them because of how they are integrated into your life, not necessarily as an object,
Yes.
as a work of art or
True.
whatever. But
Yep.
what they do for you, and these cars do that for
Are
you.
getting
These new
there,
cars,
yeah.
I mean, they park
We're
for you,
getting
they tell you where to eat,
Yeah.
all these things. So
Mhm.
yeah, I have I mean, people are positive about these cars. That's already a good start to making them love cars. So
That's true.
Mhm.
okay, well, thank you
Yep.
very much, everyone. Thanks once again.
Thank
We
you.
are the Cars Casually team. This is Nix, this is Paulo, this is Chris, this is Gerard. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Let us know what you want to join in on. and we will see you soon. Stay safe, stay kind, and thank you very, very much.
See you
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.